everyone. Welcome to the webinar today, Building Upon the Canadian Digital Data Mosaic, Creating a National Student Data Exchange Network for Canada. This webinar is produced and presented by ARUCC, otherwise known as the Association of Registrars of the Universities and Colleges of Canada. My name is Matt Schultz. I am a former McGill student, and I'm from the United States. I'll be speaking today with Joanne Duclas. Joanne is the project consulting lead for the ARUCC Groningen and Student Mobility Project, which we are discussing today. She is also the past president of ARUCC. Hello, Joanne.
Hi, Matt.
So before we jump in, could you maybe just provide a brief background on who is a part of ARUCC and what does ARUCC do?
So the ARUCC is called the Association of Registrars of the Universities and Colleges of Canada, and its members include representatives from institutions across Canada who are actively working in the area of enrollment management, enrollment services, registrarial work, admissions, recruitment, and so forth, student services people. And what ARUCC does is create a community of practice opportunities to enhance professional development for its membership. It also engages in research to advance understanding and to help develop best practice through engaged consultation with experts that is evidence-informed. And in addition, it engages in leading or supporting projects such as this one to help advance the resources, tools, supports, and practices of its members across institutions in Canada.
So what is the Groningen and Student Mobility Project all about?
This particular project, ARUCC has a vision. They want to create a national network for student data exchange that advances national and international student mobility through trusted, and that's a key word, trusted electronic data exchange. Some of their goals include enhancing Canada-wide data exchange capacity and improving student mobility.
So for those watching, you've probably noticed the Groningen Declaration icon in the bottom right. Could you, Joanne, give us some background on what the Groningen Declaration is and how does ARUCC's current project align with some international happenings at the current moment?
Sure. First and foremost, ARUCC became a signatory to the Groningen Declaration principles in 2015. And the Groningen began in the Netherlands a number of years ago, where they wanted to create a collaborative group of people who were focused on advancing student mobility through data mobility, trusted data mobility, with the ultimate goal of achieving cultural mobility. And so the goal of the Groningen is to create a framework to improve the international mobility of people, promoting worldwide education and economic development through the secure electronic exchange of post-secondary student information. So this particular project absolutely recognizes ARUCC's Groningen network commitment and their international aspirations for their members. In addition, it aligns with the World Education Forum's new vision for Education 2030, which demonstrates and represents a commitment to work towards quality lifelong learning with due attention to quality assurance. Furthermore, it aligns with the aims and expected impacts of the Fourth Industrial Revolution, which is created by World Education Forum, World Economic Forum, where it focuses about understanding that, yes, while it's data, you have to ensure that the learner is at the heart of the process as part of the work that you're doing. And this project very much is learner focused.
So on the ground here in Canada, what are some of the benefits for both Canadian post-secondary institutions and Canadian students in pursuing this project?
Well, really you're asking why bother in a way. Number one, This project, a national network, will actually support national and international student mobility, both across Canada, within the provinces and territories, but also in and outside of Canada. It definitely supports students because it recognizes that learners don't stay at one institution. They move around, they have different kinds of experiences, and ultimately, hopefully, move into the workforce. So this whole concept is about helping to create credentials that are, and transcript information and so on, co-curricular records, etc., that are in a digitized format and that can move at a speed between trusted providers or in a trusted way to help that mobility. It also is all about trust and efficiency because the concepts that we're exploring and looking to embed in a model for Canada is to create partnerships with trusted bodies to facilitate that trusted exchange of data in and outside of Canada. And lastly, it's really important to accelerate connectivity. The volume of students coming into Canada are increasing. The volume of students moving around is significant. We need to help them explain their learning in ways that are accessible and coherent and help them move as they move. So this is essential for both Canadian and international students that we have a project that's accelerating connectivity not only to whatever data hubs might exist in Canada or whatever post-secondary institutions exist in Canada, but also with trusted providers internationally.
So in addition to ARUCC, which Canadian organizations are supporting this project?
With ARUCC leading the project, they are working in partnership with CUCCIO, PCCAT, and CanPask. CanPask is the Canadian Education Standards Council, which is an affiliate of a data standards organization called PASC in the US. The Canadian University Council of Chief Information Officers is a national body here in Canada comprised of people with expertise in setting up IT infrastructures and systems and principles and policies at institutions. And then we have PCCAT, which is comprised, has members from across the country, including from the councils of articulation or admissions and transfer, if provinces or territories have such a body. On the steering committee, we have the current president, the vice president, Ramesh Valdevel, who will be the future president of ARUCC at the next biennial meeting, and Andrew Rita, who's the past president. From the Canadian CanPask group, we have the co-chair, Kathy Van Soest, who is with Education Planner BC, one of the provincial application centers, and Lisa Welsman, who, as a representative of CanPask, is also working at one of Ontario's colleges called Conestoga College. And then for PCCAT, we have Dr. Rob Fleming and Dr. Robert Adamowski, who have extensive expertise in research, in policy development, in large-scale projects such as this. And then for CUCCIO, we have Brian Stewart and Laurie McMillan, who are or have been chief information officers, and they are critical in terms of helping us from the point of view of understanding that institutional perspective. And I have been hired to, of course, support this project and support their good work.
So with this project, what are some of the key guiding principles?
Well, number one, supporting provincial and territorial autonomy and authority. And that is absolutely key. The other is institutional autonomy. There's no interest on the part of the ARUCC or the steering committee to in any way, shape, or form ignore those two critical components. There's also many different data hubs already in Canada, not necessarily in all the provinces and territories, but there's certainly a large number. So the piece is to be evidence informed and to create efficient linkages or support efficient linkage connectivity projects to ensure that student mobility objectives are met. And then, of course, diversity. there's such a diverse group of institutions across Canada. We're not looking to create a customized cookie cutter solution. We actually want to respect and preserve the diversity. And so by saying data standards, that's not meant to mean standardization or data exchange standards, standardization. It's definitely one that we're looking to be flexible and make sure we can support that diversity. The other piece that's absolutely critical is to maintain a learner focus, because ultimately, who are we doing this for? It helps students, and we have to enable and advance existing efforts and facilitate collaboration and opportunity with that in mind.
So ARUCC has done some research, as I understand in the past, regarding understanding what is currently in place for data exchange and supporting student mobility in Canada. Can you give us just a quick rundown of some of the highlights and what ARUCC has learned through that research?
Absolutely. There was an early stage task force, which was critical because their work, while time limited in 2015-16, certainly was important. It set the groundwork. It did that by conducting consultations as well as a national survey to understand the existing data exchange realities at post-secondary institutions across Canada, and to understand where the experts in our communities believe it makes sense for Canada to go in partnership. And so what we learned from that early stage is certainly that piece about the diversity and the autonomy of the institutions and each of the provinces and territories. We also learned about the diversity of students and the diversity of the nature of the student movement that's going on from a mobility point of view through the different institutions. And we began to get a beginning understanding of the 10 plus data hubs. Not a complete understanding in the early stages, but a beginning understanding, which was most helpful. So generally speaking, in terms of the current state in Canada, a couple of highlights. Number one, not every province and territory have the capacity to do province-wide data exchange, let alone national data exchange, although there are those 10 data hubs. There is some inter-provincial, interterritorial exchange of data between organizations such as the Ontario University's Application Centre and Education Planner BC. And between the three centers in Quebec for the CEGEPs, as well as the Quebec post-secondary universities, and so on. So there are examples in every jurisdiction where there's varying levels of opportunities underway, but it's not necessarily the case in every jurisdiction. The other piece we learned is just the time it takes and the resources that are needed to onboard things, as well as to move the needle in the direction we need to go. Lastly, big takeaway, there's not a lot of connectivity with trusted international organizations. So as a result, when students go out on exchange or when they are an international student coming to Canada, it's very much a reality where a lot of the review is using individual documents of individual students brought in or submitted in some way, and then a validation of officialness has to occur. So by connecting with trusted partners from abroad, it means you can automate a lot of that and make sure that you are getting truly official authenticated documents. So that's an area of huge opportunity for Canada.
So what feedback has ARUCC gotten from both its members and just generally across Canada? What's kind of the atmosphere regarding this project?
Well, number one, the ARUCC membership and their friends, if you will, allied organization representatives, they really liked it. And we formally secured a ARUCC membership endorsement as well as some advice. So number one, they said, create a national federated data exchange capacity for Canada. So don't reinvent the wheel, build on successes and close the gaps. The other piece was make it flexible, cohesive, and scalable. These are core operating principles that are guiding our thinking as we're reflecting on models. Ensure secure points of contact. This is about that trusted connectivity piece. It is absolutely critical. And the other piece that I've alluded to earlier, build on existing efforts and successes. Don't create duplicative situations. Don't try to replace that which doesn't need to be replaced. Where are opportunities that make sense both for each of the local environments as well as nationally?
So for our audience, we are recording this in December of 2017. Joanne, can you give us some highlights on of what happened this year that was exciting regarding this project, and maybe just some of the big picture things regarding this initiative?
Well, quite frankly, we had to and wanted to continue the consultation and deepen the research. So we presented this project and caught feedback to 100 plus and more, in fact, registrarial and data exchange experts, such as in October 2017 at the International Data Summit in Toronto. We had people from across Canada at that data summit, as well as international representatives, and in fact got tremendous feedback and advice and suggestions, and had gaps identified, which really helped. We distributed a research request to 1,400 data exchange and student mobility experts around the world and across Canada through the Groningen network, asking for their advice and asking for information. We've conducted extensive consultations directly. We're actually higher now than even 50 plus. It's probably closer to 80 at this stage, and the list grows every day, of organizations, vendors, and people with expertise in national data exchange to help us understand the environment. We also received 16 formal written submissions, both from domestic and international colleagues, and a response to the International Research Information request, of which 8 were from 10 of our application centers and student data exchange hubs or institutions in Canada. And in fact, the information is of a breadth and depth that's fantastic, and we are making our way through those details now.
So going into 2018, what are some of the next steps with this project?
Well, we need to create and test a model that works for Canada, one that allows us to connect effectively to each other and to the world to support our students. And in fact, this is absolutely critical. We have a models working group supporting the steering committee that is actively engaging and going through all the research, discussions, debates, etc., to come up with a series of options with potentially a preferred option that makes sense for Canada, which we will bring back to our ARUCC steering group and ultimately to ARUCC, and also continue to share with our members. It has to meet the broader objectives that I highlighted earlier. So this becomes a method of testing its effectiveness and appropriateness. Whatever model we think makes sense for Canada. Does it advance mobility? Does it support students in their seamless mobility or some kind of effective mobility into other institutions in the workforce? Does it maximize trust and efficiency? And not just across Canada, but from outside Canada, both inbound and outbound? And does it hold the potential to accelerate the connectivity that is already underway in Canada across the provincial and territorial boundaries? Because we really need to move quickly given the volume increases and things like the call for better infrastructure to support both inbound and outbound student mobility.
So what is the roadmap moving forward in terms of the specifics of the project?
Well, absolutely continue consultations and planning. We're going to do that throughout the process to the extent possible. We absolutely need to review and analyze our research findings. And of course, key is once we have determined a model, develop a supporting business case and the funding envelope so that we can really move forward aggressively on what makes sense for Canada. And out of that will be a roadmap forward to guide us. It is a multi-year project. It's something that we've been working on carefully and thoughtfully for some time, and that will continue.
So for those interested, can you tell us how those people might help supporting both ARUCC and its members in supporting this project?
Absolutely. I mean, anybody who touches on our work or hears about our work, we need you, our colleagues, to raise awareness and excitement with your leadership and the boards regarding the project. It's so critical to capture the mind on the possibilities for students and just helping them be mobile and support their path. So as part of that, we're asking that people explain the Groningen Network, the role of ARUCC, and the importance of this project for student mobility, both to each other, but also within their own institutions and organizations. We are formally seeking endorsements for the project and have an endorsement template letter that can be provided to institutions, allied organizations, associations, and government. We need these endorsements so that we can demonstrate that there's a shared sense of prioritization with regards to this particular initiative to help us keep moving forward. People, institutions, organizations, you may want to consider becoming a member of the Groningen Network because the principles resonate with a lot of the good work that's already going on in Canada, and it allows you to connect formally with organizations around the world. The other thing is to identify pilots underway in your institution or organization that align with these project goals. Absolutely critical, and in fact, with Groningen, I'm helping them create a database so that we can actually collect that kind of information from colleagues around the world, including from within Canada, which for the Canadian data will help us to truly understand the breadth and depth of what's already going on or being contemplated, as well as therefore then be able to identify future possibilities. Critical to all of this, many organizations and institutions are making student mobility a strategic priority. An important pairing is to make national and international student data mobility a strategic priority, because you cannot effectively do one without the other. Otherwise, institutional staff members will continue to be assessing and validating the officialness of individual documents from individual students in their work. So there's a really important efficiency piece here. Data mobility equals student mobility, and they have to go hand in hand. And lastly, of course, we're always seeking advice and support, part of that consultation and collaboration piece.
Well, Joanne, I want to thank you for your time today. I want to thank everybody who tuned into this webinar. We really hope that you found it interesting and exciting and informative. If you are interested in seeking more information, you can go to arucc.ca. There's a myriad of information just on that site, but for this specific project, you'll look on the right side of the page and you'll want to click on Task Force Groningen. Underneath that heading, there will be a myriad of information about this project specifically. So again, thanks everybody. We appreciate your time and have a good day.